Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the CSFL Kick Off Show. We're back today with the much anticipated playoff prediction, playoff look at the CSFL season this year. Diving into each of the conferences and taking and digesting what we think could happen and where we think teams will end up in the playoffs, or they'll be looking at it from the outside. I'm joined by a whole host of guests today, I have to say. As one of the guests mentioned to me before we came on, probably more guests than I have viewers on this kickoff show, but that's always good. It's always good to have different people on the show. We'll probably start off. First of all, we've got our usual sort of regular, I'm going to call him a co-host at this point because he's on every single kickoff show. Josh, the Titans GM. Josh, welcome back to the show.
Hello, thank you.
Good to have you back on. And then we're joined by my assistant GM in the league, Rob. Rob, welcome back to the show. You're coming a bit regular now.
The real force behind the Lions, but okay.
Yeah, so you say so. And then we're also joined by the Lions nemesis in their division, Zach, the Packers GM. Zach, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, glad to be here.
And then finally, we've got not a Lions or a Packers nemesis. We've probably fair to say we've got a Titans nemesis on the show as well today. We've got the Colts GM, Jed. Jed, welcome back again.
Good to be here.
Good to be here. Back twice in 1 week. My goodness me, we're doing well. We're getting people back on here. So let's dive in, shall we? Get straight into it. Straight into the action here. We'll start off with the NFC, I think, in terms of the who will make the playoffs question that we've posed to the panel here really today. I think before I open up to you guys, it's pretty fair to say the North, the NFC North is pretty much locked up by the Lions at this point. We already know the Packers are going to go through. So guys, let's not talk about that. That's pretty much a done deal. Likewise, I'd probably say with the NFC East, it's pretty much the Giants to lose at this stage. And I would be very surprised if the Cowboys drop out of a wild card at this point. So I think there's two divisions that really need to take the focus of our time in the NFC today, really. And that is the South and West divisions, which look like complete and utter bloodbaths through teams possibly underachieving, some teams overachieving, but it's really open, isn't it? I mean, probably throw it open to Zach first from an NFC perspective. I mean, what's your take on both of these divisions, and where do you see it sort of playing out?
Yeah, it's for the South. It's really going to come down to, I think, the Falcons Carolina game, Week 16. That's just, whoever wins that, I think, is going to take the division. As far as who's going to win it, I think it's tough to say it. I still think that Carolina, they have a top 10 defense in points given up. I think they're still going to come out of that the leader, but I don't know. They don't give me a lot of confidence at this point, so it's really tough to say. And then you look out west. Again, this kind of goes back to the Cardinals. I think are the most talented team here, but they haven't really done well lately. They have their quarterback Kelty now, though. I think they're gonna come out ahead there. If I had to predict something there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Josh, Rob, and Jed, I'm interested in your views in terms of this. Interesting set of divisions, isn't it?
So it is, but something I want to bring up that you mentioned at the top of the show about the Cowboys, you'd be surprised if they drop out. Well, the Bears play them this week, and that would put both teams at 6 and 7 if the Bears come out on that one, and might put them in the driver's seat ahead of the Cowboys if they can pull it out. And they just beat our Colts this week, so wouldn't be surprised if Chicago goes on a run to get that last spot. But same time, Cowboys, there's so many other teams that just may not make it, so they could afford even one or two more losses. But that Bears game is going to be intriguing this week.
Yeah, I was big on the Bears until I looked at their schedule. They got Titans, Lions, Cardinals. So that's going to be. I thought I was trying to put them in the playoffs, but then I saw their schedule and I was like, not so fast.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier too, and I was about to bring up the same point as Jen. Slow down. It's between the Bears and the Eagles, but the Bears have a pretty wild schedule, and I'm not gonna knock on wood and jinx my game, but they could very well go on. That streak could get stopped at just one. I guess while I'm talking and I have the thoughts in my head, I'm going to go ahead and try to get them out. So I'll go next. Looking at the NFC South, I keep looking at the Panthers and I just don't understand why they aren't winning their division. I kind of always lean towards defense when I'm picking teams, and I just think that team has the best defense in that division and it should just be doing better. But ultimately, I'm with him. I could see the Falcons winning it, but I think it's the Panthers to lose. I think they just got to figure out Cam, because with his arm strength, they should be just launching down the field a lot more than they do. And looking at the West, honestly, that was just, I have no idea between the Cardinals and the Rams. I lean towards the Cardinals because as we've talked, I think Cleesby and I, and a few of our private conversations, we talked about just exactly how good Trent Richardson is and how he might be the best running back in the league, because if he actually gets in open space, he's going to truck any DB or safety that tries to tackle him. So I feel like the Cardinals are definitely always a dark horse, and they, are one of those teams that can, as we've seen, sneak a team in the playoffs. So they should come out on top, perhaps, in that division. But the Rams, their new GM has been doing very well, actually game planning from game to game, and I think he's won more games than anyone predicted him getting this year. So that's kind of where I'm at that.
Yeah, I think I'll just throw my hat in the ring as well. I can't see the Falcons not picking up that second wildcard spot, to be honest with you, simply because Cowboys play the Bears, who we saw this week aren't a pushover, and they can scare a team. I don't know where they're playing, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. But if they're playing in a dome as well, Megatron could have some slight more accurate passes to actually be catching rather than wild ones. The Cowboys then play the Chiefs, who aren't pushovers by any means over there in the AFC. They're league-leading giants. They're division-leading giants, should I say, which means they could be entering Week 17 playing the Falcons at 6-9, whereas the Falcons at the same time are playing the 49ers, who have conceded close to 90 points in the last 2 weeks, the Bengals, and then they play their Panthers in their division as well. So they, on the contrary to the Cowboys, the Falcons could be entering their Week 17 matchup against the Cowboys at 7-8. Whereas, so that will basically be Cowboys have to win in order to get in, whereas the Falcons will be entering with a better situation, should we say?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, I'm not going to necessarily dive into sort of the where we think the top ones are. I think you guys have sort of articulated that very well. I will say that one thing that I found was interesting from this image that you provided for Rob for the show was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a really fascinating schedule in the sense that they play the Saints and the Panthers in the last 2 games, and to me that could make or break both of their seasons over those 2 games. So I mean, I would expect the Buccaneers to be very competitive against Seattle and against the Steelers, who are in very middling years towards the bottom end of their divisions. So that's an interesting one for me to see how that one plays out. I think
that's really awesome. I like having the late season drama.
Yeah, I like one more team that I think I've been backing them for close to 3. This is probably the 3rd season in a row I've been backing them, but they've never actually performed. Is Adam and the Eagles, because they couldn't have asked for a better end of season. To be honest, they couldn't have asked for a better schedule than to play the 2nd worst team in the league back to back to enter the playoffs. You can't really ask for it much better than that, to be honest. And he's at 4-8.
That's awesome. That's a good observation. I did not notice that at all. Wow.
Yeah, I was about to say that it looks like I don't think any of the 5 and 7 teams are going to go. They're all going to drop at least 1 game. So I think I think a 7 and 9 team might get the last wild card spot. I won't be surprised. I think it's going to come down to the tiebreaker, which I have no idea how that works. But
out of everyone, if there was one team I had to pick out of the Cowboys, the Bears, the Falcons, the Saints, the Rams, the first team to make 8 wins to make the second wild card, it would be the Falcons for me, because I can see them beating the 49ers and the Bengals to automatically go to 7-7, and then they need to pick up 1 win against the Panthers or the Cowboys.
Yeah, I hope he fixed the tiebreakers. Previously, I think one of them was out of order. I think it was the third to last one. Like he might have had something in front of division. So yeah,
I think there was also a mistake on head-to-head for a start, because we we overtook the Packers last season, or was it the season before? No, the season before. We split the season 1-1. We won by 3. Packers won by 7. So theoretically, they should have won that, but we took the division over them for some reason.
Yeah, and there was and then the very first season that we had, I didn't make it, and it should have been the record of, like, I think it was common games, and it's something else that he had actually put before it. So, hopefully, like I said, they got that order straight in this new version, but I wouldn't count on it.
Yeah.
I think they have. I hope so. I mean, it's very difficult to test that type of thing in the first access, but I hope they fixed it, because we do have reassurances they did. I think I'm going to cut you guys off here for the NFC now. But before we move on to probably the more interesting conference this year in terms of playoff battles, I just want to go through each of you and really just, apart from, obviously, let's assume the Giants and the Lions and the Packers already in terms of division wins or wild card slot. In terms of the remaining 2 division slots and the remaining wild card slot, I'd be interested to see who you have listed down. So maybe we'll start with Josh, then we'll go to Rob, Zach, and then we'll finish with Jed, and we'll move on to the AFC.
Okay, so obviously, I guess for each division, I'm going to go, Lions, Panthers, Giants, and Cardinals, the current people who are leading the divisions. I think that that's, in my mind, I think that's the way it probably should work out. Yeah, that's what was the? I apologize. What was
and then the final wild card slot.
Final wild card slot. I apologize. I'm gonna go with Cowboys and Falcons.
Okay, over to you, Rob.
Yeah, I don't expect the division lead to change from any division. So Lions, Giants, Panthers, and Cardinals. Then Packers, obviously, the 5 seed with the top wild card. They would have won probably every other division by the end of the season.
I completely forgot.
Yeah, you missed the Packers. You put the Falcons in ahead of the Cowboys. I assume you meant Green Bay and Dallas as the wild cards. So. And
yeah,
then,
that's my fault. I just think of them as a lock. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the Falcons as the second wild card over the Cowboys, both simply because of the schedule, and secondly because we have their first round pick, so that suits us.
Okay, over to you, Zach.
Yeah, I think the divisions are going to stay to what they are: Lions, Panthers, Giants, Cardinals. I'll take the 5 seed, and then it comes down to, I think, the Falcons and Cowboys, and I'll go Falcons as well.
Okay, cool. And then last but not least, Jed, any changes in what everyone else has said?
No, I'm going to back the Bears. I think they're, we know the Lions might be sitting some players come week 16. They got the Cowboys this week. I think Bears are going to come out on that one. Then they've got Titans. I expect that to be a loss, even though it's at home. And then at Detroit and at Cardinals, I really could see them getting to going 3-1 to finish. But that really depends on what the Lions do in week 16 with their squad, if they're going to be sitting people or not. But if we're even still 7-9, I do see them going 2-2. I think they're going to beat both the Cowboys and the Cardinals, and I think Bears are going to surprise everyone, just like they surprised the Colts this week, and sneak into that last playoff spot.
Okay, cool. Right. We've got the probably the easiest division, I would have to say, out of easiest conference out of the 2. Let's move on to the more difficult one, where I think we're going to spend a fair bit of time here. So we move on to the AFC. Well, I don't really know where to start with this one, guys. Pretty much any division is up for grabs, it's fair to say, at this moment in time. There are so many interdivision games as well. I mean, but perhaps we'll start with Zach. Zach, as an observer from an NFC team, what's your take on this? Maybe division by division, anything you see, how do you try and break this down? It's just a bit of a minefield, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a lot to break down, so I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll start with just the division winners, then we can kind of dive into the wild cards. I really still like the Ravens coming out of the North there, and then I think the Titans will still I think they'll take 2 out of the 3 between Denver, Jacksonville, and Detroit. I think they'll beat Jacksonville and then probably Denver as well. So I feel like Tennessee taking that division. I think the Raiders will come out atop their West, and then I guess I'll take Dolphins as far as the East, but I don't really know what to make out of the South right now. But I have the most confidence in the Titans, so I think that's the easiest one to pick.
Yeah, absolutely. There's I mean, perhaps we'll go over to Jed next. I mean, it's really interesting if we take your division, Jed. I mean, the South. You've got 2 teams there who've got Week 17 buys. Yourself and the Jags. I mean, how crucial do you think that is in terms of just that division? In terms of how the land lies at the end of the season there.
It'll be nice if we can get to that point. I mean, we're going to have all our answers, mostly ironed out by Week 16. And so we're going to be paying a lot of attention to games because I think we're going to be pretty close fighting for that last spot with Denver. We're going to be fighting with the Jags. I mean, I'm starting to think that it's either going to be Colts or Jags are going to miss the playoffs. And one of them is going to be 11-5 is what I think. Jags, I do think, are going to drop that game to the Titans. It's a revenge game. They beat the Titans at home 32-10 early in the year. And then Week 16, Titans are going to want some revenge and just make sure they stay solid in that seeding, because if they drop that game to the Jags, I expect that will be for the division. So it's just lots of intense games in the South. Colts have kind of the least amount of pressure, and it's almost like it finally caught up to us this week after we've had just a massive slate of winning teams all season. And then we come up against the Bears and drop a game finally after we performed well against lots of playoff teams, lots of teams that are solid in playoff position, some that are kind of on the outskirts, but we performed well. And then just dropped an inexplicable game to the Bears when you can't be dropping games in this AFC at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'll probably throw it over to Josh now. I mean, in terms of just your division, let's try and focus on the South, and then we'll break out the other divisions in a minute. You've heard obviously from Jed, the Colts GM there. Have you got any other different takes in terms of the South and how you see it playing out with yourself, the Jags, and the Colts? 3 teams so close.
Well, and I beat this drum, and everyone kind of laughs because they're like, "Well, you won it twice," but I'm like, "No, man, there's a luck component to everything." And with my schedule at the end of the season, I just I laugh at the thought that this season that my division is remotely locked up. I personally have to play the Bears, who just beat the Colts. I have to play the Jags again, the Broncos, who have seemed like they turned it around, and then I look like I might be the one who gets the shot to actually stop the Lions from getting another undefeated season. I mean, from getting a second undefeated season in league history. So that's kind of a whopper of the end of the season schedule. So I don't want to count anything before it's hatched. And that's not even me not trying to jinx myself. That's just, the reality of the situation being in the AFC South, because with the exclusion of the Colts and the Texans, the Jags and I both have pretty heavy slates coming up. Taking a look at the AFC North, I'm actually going to go with the old head and say Gorilla sneaks this one out under the wire. And my reasoning for doing that is just that I was looking at his schedule, and I kind of just like his schedule at the end of the season just a little bit better. He has the Jets, the Saints, the Steelers, and his last game against the Raiders is going to be a little difficult. But those other teams have been dropping games left and right, and so I'm pretty sure that he's about to reel off a nice good 3-game run, and maybe he can take that momentum and veteran knowledge into knocking off the Raiders. Whereas when I was looking at the remainder of the Ravens schedule, if I could pull that back up again, there was one game I thought that they could get knocked off on, which would put them back into a tiebreaker with the Browns, which they lost. Oh, there it is, the Patriots. I really want to see this game because I think that they've been performing better. And it would be hilarious with all the smack that Dennis has talked this year if Adam snuck one on him. So I'm really looking forward to. Sorry, Dennis. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing if that happens. So
I think we're all looking
going to
forward to seeing the Patriots actually turn up for once. I've been
yeah.
talking about the Patriots for every single season we've been in the CSFL. Adam, if you're listening again, come on, you've got to get me right sometime. I've been waiting so long for the Patriots to turn up as a team. It's people think I'm going mad now, but I'm not. The Patriots will be a good team eventually.
And considering the byplay of all the other leagues that we're in, I really do think that it could be really funny considering that we've known each other for a while. So
yeah,
going back to I'm sorry, what were you about to say?
No, carry on. You're flowing. Go.
Okay, cool. I'll try to speed and wrap it up a little bit. So the East, I'm going with the Dolphins. And I'm just gonna stick with the Dolphins. I'm not gonna go too much into the other teams. I just see them taking the whole thing. And for the West, I'm kind of stuck between the Raiders and the Broncos. I'm gonna lean towards Noah because he's been doing this thing a bit longer. I think he's starting to try to figure it out. But I also think that Manning's Vincent Jackson connection has just been special this year, and it might honestly win some awards because it just kind of came out of nowhere, and I think that's kind of deserving of attention. If I had to pick someone for the wild card spot, right now I'm going to give it to the Jaguars just off strength of schedule, just off strength of the GM and the fact that he's been there and he's done it before. I actually do think the Colts might we might see 3 people from my division make it again. The other teams are very, very close to schedule, and I said it at the beginning of the season, and I don't know if anyone said it, but I think someone might have said it before me, but I'm not sure. But 11-5 looks like it's going to be the cutoff for the American South, and that's crazy. But that's pretty much me. Whoever's ready.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably get Rob to jump in on this one because he hasn't had a chance to talk about the AFC. I mean, I'm guessing, Rob, you're going to probably want to talk about your star-studded favourite dark horse this year, the Raiders, to begin with.
No, I'll leave the Raiders for last. I'll try and wrap it rest up because I seem to have been the only one from the very beginning to have been backing the Raiders. Right. I don't expect the NFC North to swap too much from the sittings of what it is currently. The East could be interesting simply because it would be interesting to see what the second place team in that division could end up being because I wouldn't exactly call the Patriots a winnable schedule because the Patriots with Adam could go anything from 10-4 to 6-10 in that schedule. So I'll leave them out. I'll let Chris be hung up to dry on that one. The South is where I'll be a bit controversial. I'll say I'm actually expecting the Jaguars to finish 3rd in that division because I honestly don't see them finishing better than 10-6 with the schedule they have remaining. And that's just being honest because I don't think Josh is going to be resting any players from week 16. From week 15, we are unlikely to be resting players. So that will be an interesting game. And the Chiefs aren't any pushover. I like their quarterback / wide receiver combo of Antonio Brown, Tony Moeaki, and Pat Devlin. It seems to work sometimes. I think that could cause them a few issues. They defend the quarterback a lot better than other teams as well, which could keep the Glenn Dorsey specifically of the Jaguars at bay. So the Jaguars are looking, in my opinion, at anything from 9-7 to 10-6, best case scenario. Whereas Jed and the Colts, I don't expect them to drop any of those 3 games. So the Colts are looking at 11-5. The Titans are looking at a minimum of 11-5 as well. So I just can't see the Jags finishing 2nd in that division. In the West, I've been going on about the Raiders from preseason, from week 5 or 6 of the. I think I actually called them out during the draft when they made that 2nd round pick. I said that they would probably challenge Broncos for that division. I was laughed at then. I'm probably still being laughed at now, despite the fact that it's already 8-4. And to be honest, those 4 games are winnable based on what they've shown this season, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying anything else about that. And just clicking on the injuries Josh brought up as well. The Jaguars, just skipping back to the Jaguars, they have a number of key players out or probable or questionable over the next couple of weeks as well. So that doesn't help their case, considering the only game you would favor the Jaguars over the next 3 weeks is the game they're going to be missing all those players. So I favor the Chiefs now on that game, to be honest. So that puts them on 9-5, 9-6 versus the Lions, 9-7 versus the Titans. Possibly if they had won that week 1 game against the Colts, was it that they lost because they didn't have their starting lineup on the field? Yeah, it was that was the game. Yeah, when Jed was still figuring out his team, offense/defense, whereas Jags were just carrying it over, rolling it over from the previous season. So I'll just close it on the West. I don't expect neither the Chiefs nor the Chargers to be able to pull out a turnaround of that. So it's between the Raiders and the Broncos. I expect the Raiders to win that division, and based on their schedule, I wouldn't be too surprised if they manage to clinch a bye as well. I will go that far. I'm going to call the Raiders out for a bye week in the playoffs.
That would be awesome, man. That would definitely be like, storyline of the year type stuff. I can only imagine how that would go over in real life. Sin City, would lose its mind right now. So that'd be pretty cool.
It's just that since they've brought in Vincent Jackson, they have put up a minimum of 31 points per game over 4 games. Sorry, over 3 games. They've put 31 on the Bengals, 31 on the Steelers, 39 on the Cowboys. Sure, they're not teams that were competing for the playoffs in the first place, but at the same time, you wouldn't call the Texans and the Washington football teams that are competing for the playoffs anyway, so that can continue. So that's another 30 and 30 there. That's 2 wins. That's 10-4. Then they play the Chargers and the V Gorillas team, who V Gorilla has a history of not going above 500. He just seems to get to close to 500 and then sort of mess it up. I'd also like to point one more thing out that you were saying, Josh, earlier. I think it was Josh that was saying that week 17 to put a stop to the second 16-0 season. We've already had 2. In 2012, the Denver Broncos and the New Orleans Saints finished 16-0.
Yeah, they
right. Both of them did go.
Yeah, that was the season where New Orleans broke the scoring record, which still stands, and Denver broke the defensive record, which still stands. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to jump in. I mean, on the Raiders, I think the interesting thing is I was thinking about this before we came onto the pod today. I don't know a team that has a better running back, quarterback, and wide receiver 1 combo than the Raiders in the entire league. I can't think of one that has as good a combo.
I'll throw another player into that's key on this. Their left tackle is probably one of the best tackles in the game.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's
they have Sam Baker, who's 95 overall, 88 strength, 83 run block, and 90 pass block. So Lynch has running room on that side of the field as well.
Yeah, I think there's one. I think there's one team that you guys probably, from what you guys have described, that I think you might be missing out on, and that is the Buffalo Bills. The poor Buffalo Bills, who have had a terrible run in the CSFL.
To be honest, I had them noted down to speak about them, but then because it's the Bills, I sort of forgot about them. No offense to Toasty or anything, but
I honestly, I was actually going to bring up the Bills specifically because I do think the Bills are going to win out.
Yeah, they don't have. They don't have.
I just don't want to jinx them. That was my whole deal. I didn't want to bring it up because I think they could do it.
They've gone to a more natural quarterback. They haven't got Tebow now, which is probably quite a good thing, to be honest. But they're playing the Bengals, a winnable game. Playing the Rams, a winnable game. And then they faced the Dolphins and the Pats. To be honest, that Dolphins game will be the crucial one for them. If they can get that one over, bearing in mind that the Dolphins may well have locked up the division by that point. That may.
They also almost lost to the Patriots earlier this season, too.
Yeah, so it might give them a little edge in terms of getting above the Jets, who have probably, in my opinion, a slightly tougher schedule in terms of the Browns, the Seahawks, the Pats, before they get to the Texans.
What I will say about Toasty and the Bills, though, and this is a credit towards Toasty, and this goes to is a sort of like a show of what can happen to all the newer GMs and stuff like that, is Toasty, if everyone remembers, he's had a specific game plan of what he would do for about 4 seasons now, which everyone has ridiculed. I was the first one in the front of the queue for that. He was always against building from the draft. He always wanted to do it through free agency and open up the cap and so on and so forth. And he's always said, like, just give it 2 seasons and it'll work. Give it 2 seasons and it will work. The whole thing happened last season, so he couldn't do it last season with his playbook. And now it's actually coming through. So credit to him. He had a game plan from the start. He stuck with it, and it's coming through now.
Yep. I definitely think that his we kind of looked at some of his trades and his decisions, and we kind of did kind of have that point of view of, like, what are you doing? And he was just like, give me a chance. I have a plan, and yeah, I completely agree.
That's just one thing that I want to highlight towards, like, any other newer GMs that might be watching this or track the ongoings of the league and stuff like that. Is just rather than, because we've seen 1 or 2 other GMs who have then left, and they started with one plan, then they scrapped it and went to another plan, and then that failed as well because they haven't had time to develop any of them. So just pick your choice. Do you want to do it through the draft? Do you want to do it through free agency? Do you want to do it through trades? Pick it and stick to it for at least 2 free agency periods. Give it a chance for you to go through to develop that first-round rookie, that second-round rookie that you got. See how it comes, make another trade, and so on and so forth, rather than just 6 weeks after your initial choice suddenly going, yeah, it's not working, I'm 1-5, I'll blow it up and start it again. It's never going to work if you keep doing that. So just pick up a game plan and stick to it.
Yeah, that's why I've never been shy about the long manageable extensions. I don't know about you guys, but if I find a guy who fits exactly what my team wants and he's under 30, like, I'm going to give him the longest contract possible, because I think that, building continuity and kind of, once you know what works for you, being able to just, plug somebody into the same holes because you have, an archetype for that position, that's when you really start getting to, like, the next level of this game.
Yeah, I think it's worth also just a shout out to the Chargers, who have been down the bottom for a little while, 6-6 now. That's definitely an upward step for them, and that offense is looking very good. So probably not this season. I think next season that West Division may have even more competition going forward for it.
Well, maybe they'll take over the AFC South next week as the most, get 3 playoff teams, because AFC South looking like we're going to have 3 teams, or could have 3 teams in the playoffs again. Maybe next year that becomes the AFC West.
Yeah, possibly. So I think we'll bring this show to a close now. As we did with the NFC, I think it was probably a good idea to just run through you guys in terms of division winners, wild card entries. Perhaps we'll start this time with Jed. We'll go to Zach, then Rob, and then we'll finish off with Josh.
I'm going to go with Baltimore, Tennessee. I'm actually going to go with Bills winning that division in the East, Raiders in the West. 2 wild card spots. I'm going to go with Colts and I will say Broncos. And I think Jags are going to fall out. I just think that schedule's too tough, and the Jags just going to miss. Especially because they have, they dropped to the Packers 41-17 last week. I'd have more confidence if that game had been closer, but it just was a bloodbath in Green Bay.
Yeah, schedule and injuries is going to be a challenge for the Jags. Zach, what's your view on the AFC?
Yeah, so I already kind of mentioned my division winners, but it's going to be Ravens in the North, Dolphins in the East, and then I think the Raiders go 4-0, take the West. Titans are going to take the South. I think Jacksonville's going to lose 2 out of 3. That's going to drop them to just 10 wins. Colts are going to win 3. That's going to bring them up to 11. So I think Colts get a wild card spot, and I think Broncos win 3 out of 4, and also get a wild card spot with 11 wins. I really do like the Bills a lot, but as I kind of mentioned, with the 11 wins being the mark for a wild card, I don't think they can go 4-0 to get in that conversation. I think they'll go 3-1.
Yeah, 11 wins is always a tough one. AFC just shows how competitive the AFC is. Rob, what's your take on it?
Yeah, mine is basically along the lines of Zach. I'm going to go with the teams on a bye being the Raiders and the Ravens. The Raiders and the Ravens, correct? But those teams will probably be able to snag a bye as well and take the week off. Then I expect the Dolphins to go. Actually, And between the Dolphins will take I'll go with the Dolphins because everyone else wants the Ravens. I'll take the Dolphins to take a bye. I expect them to go 4-0 for that division, get 12 wins. So will the Raiders. That's 12 wins there. The Ravens will be the other division winners, as will the Titans. And then I expect the Broncos to have. I expect Noah. Noah looks like he's starting to figure out his defense at least. So that's kind of concerning for teams in the AFC when Noah starts to figure things out over there. And probably the Colts to win out and the Jags to just miss out. And that's exclusively because I honestly think that the difference between that division is the Jaguars starting their bench on week 1. If they had started properly, that could have been an entirely different division over there.
So it's always fine margins that get you through, and
yeah,
if it's that one that's killer, that's going to really be a hurtful.
And
one.
it's really hurtful for the Jags because let's remember that they missed out. They're going to miss out on the playoffs this season because of that, and they missed out last season because of the whole export thing. So when they got knocked out as well.
What? I thought it was all three of us last season. Jags. I thought it was Jets that missed last season, just barely.
No, it was. I'm saying what happened with the Jags last season in the playoffs was
they didn't export.
Their export didn't take in the wild card week because he rested players for week 17, and then his export didn't take for the wild card, so he just got spanked by can't remember who he played.
Yeah.
And cool. I was going to point out how crazy it is. The Jags, Browns, Jets, and Bills, I think, were all missed the playoffs, and I think all 4 of those teams were probably the second or third best team in the NFC.
But I think that there's another concern for the AFC. Vigorilla, being one of the more vets, has finally started getting a roster capable of winning some games. So that could be another team rising over there.
Yeah, there's just so much to unpack in the AFC going forward, not just this season, but next few seasons.
So we want our NFC teams to step it up a bit as well, because we can't have it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many competitive GMs in the AFC, and some are starting to get things to click. Josh, I mean, you've been patiently waiting there. You've heard everyone else in terms of how they think it's going to play out. How do you see it looking this year?
Did we lose him?
Josh, are you still around? Have we lost you? Maybe we've lost Josh for a second. So I'm gonna throw mine in the hat for the AFC then. So
you haven't lost me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Okay, I was getting worried. You almost had me doing some predictions there. We really want to hear yours.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know what happened. Looking at it, I'm going Ravens and Dolphins. Like I said earlier, I'm still leaning towards the Broncos, but I'm gonna be honest, man. You guys have persuaded me, and after looking at their schedule, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Raiders actually. They could go anywhere from making the playoffs to winning the darn conference because my schedule was just absurd. I'm not picking anyone in the AFC South, and I know you guys would be like, "Oh man, he does that all the time," but I just don't really have a passion for picking myself. But I will say this: I really, really want to win, and I don't plan on benching a single player for the duration of the season because I have not yet had a season where I've gone back to back, and I desperately would like to have 2 seasons where I win the conference, just personally. So that's like my small goal, and if I can hold on and win 3 out of these remaining games, I think I have a shot at that. But other than that, I think that's how it's going to play out. But looking at the schedule that's remaining, if we're looking back from now and Rob completely nailed it that the Raiders won the AFC, give that man a medal, and hopefully may your bets be good this year.
Okay, cool. I think that brings us to a nice close here. Fair to say that the AFC is much more of an interesting division in terms of seeing how the end of the season plays out in comparison to most of the divisions in the NFC. But thank you very much to all the guests for tuning in and joining us here on the show. And
just one more quick side note to put pressure on to Zach, by the way. He has 4 games remaining. He's 2 games away from becoming the winningest team in the history of the CSFL. Ooh. So no pressure there. New Orleans on 61 wins and the Packers on 59. So 4 games to
Rodgers as well.
Yeah, with no Rodgers. So there you go. A bit of pressure for you to end the season on.
Might be one of the top winning teams, and here I have one. I think one playoff win now. So
Still though, squad goals.
Small steps, small steps. Winning his team's always a good thing. You can be the San Antonio Spurs of the CSFL.
Hey.
No, great to have all you guys on. Best of luck, everyone, with the remaining schedule and all the playoffs hopes that each team actually on this show has at the moment. We'll see how it plays out, and I'm sure we'll be back to talk playoffs when we get there.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
Yep. Check you later.